All right, so this is Ryan Gardner conducting the interview with one of my good friends here, Gerard, and we're going to ask him a couple questions about how sports has affected his life. And I guess to start, who was probably the most important athlete to you while you were young?
That would have to be Mickey Mantle. I think he was a consummate pro, and I would just have to say he was a true model for a child of my age.
Okay, so you were able to look up to him and inspire maybe to become a baseball player yourself?
I played a lot of baseball when I was a child. I was in the Little League, the Pony League, the Liberty League. I did some. My dad was in a semi-pros, and then I played football when I got into high school.
Okay.
I did some football in college too. Other than that, I'd have to say that sports has been a big part of my life.
Yeah, sounds like it. How would you say sports are different from today versus when you remember it?
Well, from what I remember, sports was actually something that you could really get into and something that you could enjoy. Today, it's just big business. All it is about money. It's about who can take the highest bidder, you know, and you have just mercenary players today. I mean, they're not like they used to be. Not at all.
Yeah. Okay. For you, what do you think was the most exciting game that you ever saw or played in?
The most exciting game I ever saw I'm a Cub fan, and I'd have to say the very first game of 1969, when Willie Smith came to bat as a pinch hitter in the extra innings and he hit a home run. He beat the Philadelphia Phillies, and from that time on, the Cubs took off, but then they faded in the stretch. They were like 8 games ahead of the Mets in August, and they ended up 8 games behind the Mets at the end of the season.
Wow.
So
I guess I'm unfamiliar with that, before my time at least. So. What about that I know it's maybe a sore spot, but what about that 1969 season really?
A lot of things happened. The Cubs got on a losing streak that they just couldn't get out of. You know, guys like Billy Williams, Ernie Banks, Ron Santo, Randy Hundley, Glenn Beckert, you know, Don Kessinger. I mean, these were some of the greatest players in Cubs history, and they still couldn't get the job done. And basically they said it was because of the heat, because the Cubs were the only team in the major leagues at that time that played in the daytime. And you know,
that was their excuse there?
That was one of their excuses. Every year the Cubs come up with an excuse. You know, when they fail, you know, because I've been through this in '84, I've been through this in 1989, and the Cubs failed again.
So hopefully this year.
A lot of people think this may be the year, and hopefully it will be.
It's their centennial, right, since the last?
Exactly.
1908, so.
I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop. I mean, that's how I am as a Cub fan. I'm a disgruntled Cub fan, and there's millions of us out there. And basically, I'm just waiting to see when the Cubs do something wrong, and then it's gonna hurt them. But hopefully this will be their year.
So it sounds almost a little pessimistic based on prior experiences and...
Yeah, I'd have to say so.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the Cubs lose games they had no business losing. I've seen the Cubs win games they shouldn't have won, but they did. But for the most part, I'd have to say they lost more than they should have.
Yeah. So hopefully this year they can stick it out. I'll be pulling for them for sure. How has the role of sports changed over your lifetime, both you or for the society and for the society?
I think, as I said earlier, it's more of a big business now, and teams just aren't. There's no loyalty anymore in sports. I mean, if a player is one of the best on the market for free agency, he'll go to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
And he won't go with the team that he feels is the team that's right for him. He'll just go for the big bucks.
You see that all the time today.
Yeah, I see that a lot.
Yeah.
And it's not just in baseball, it's in every sport, every major sport. And there's only one time I can recall where a player who was a great player came and played with the Blackhawks years ago, Bobby Orr. one of the greatest defensemen in NHL history. He came to the Blackhawks, he got a big salary, but when he was diminished in his capacity as far as being a great player. He gave the money back. You don't see that. You don't see that happen too much in sports. That's about the only occasion I can recall.
Okay. Wow. So it sounds like sports has really been a pretty big part of your life.
It has.
And sounds like, you know, it affects you more so on just being a fan, but, you know, emotionally or...
Well, there was a time when I was more emotional than I am now, because I'm so used to Chicago teams not winning. And basically, I just feel that I'm all cried out, you know, as far as the Cubs are concerned. But if the Cubs do great, I'm right there, you know. And that would go for any Chicago team. But Chicago just has a history of not winning the big games. So that's why I'm sad.
And a little bitter, maybe.
Bitter is a good word, yes.
If you were talking to an athlete, how do you think preparation for a game has changed over the years?
Oh, that's a good question. I think today's athlete is bigger, stronger, and healthier than the ones from 25, 30 years ago, because you have the weight equipment in the rooms where they can do more exercising. In the old days, you couldn't do that as much as you do now. So I think that's one aspect of why it's changed so much. Other than that, I would have to say that's probably the biggest reason. Exercising is more important today than it was 25, 30 years ago.
So if you could say one thing to sum up how sports has changed or affected your life, what do you think that would be?
That's a tough one. If I'd have to come up with one word, I'd have to say longing, because the Cubs have been so long since the Cubs have won. It's been so long since the Blackhawks have won. Right now, the Blackhawks hold the NHL record for longest without a Stanley Cup.
I didn't know that.
And I just think that basically the Bears are on the right road. The Sox are okay, but right now, Chicago sports team still, it's management and it's ownership. And that's what this comment's all about.
All right. All right, well, I'd like to thank you for listening, and Gerard, thank you very much for being my interviewee for this. And this is Ryan Gardner for History 324, signing off. Thanks.
Okay.